Hi guys, it's Aoife from Fred BC Died Laughing, and I am here today to talk about a few books that I think, even though they talk about pandemics or like the end of the world as we know it and threats against the human population, I also think that they are full of hope and different things that are actually quite hopeful and inspiring and nice. So I want to talk about that with everything that's been going on in the world, and I feel like there is a lot of panic and stress and anxiety, and I think it's nice to talk about things that, like, these things do happen, but also there are so many great things that come out of these things as well, like things like people looking out for each other, people taking like time for themselves to concentrate on like their hobbies, their art, their writing, just yeah, self-care, things like that. And yeah, even though things look really bleak sometimes, things also are very hopeful and things will all be okay. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Is that the quote from The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel? I don't know, but it goes something like that. So let's go for that for now. A few books I want to talk about, because I was kind of looking and I thought I'd actually read more books about like pandemics and things like that. And I think I did when I was younger, but I actually can't remember. I read some really good ones when I was younger and I cannot remember the name of them now, because it was before I used to like take note of all the books I read. But there were a few that definitely popped out. There's one in particular which is my favourite one, which I think is actually a really good one for people to read right now if they're feeling very stressful. But one of the ones I want to talk about is one that a lot of people already know about, which is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, which is very similar to kind of, there is a flu that is around the world, a lot of people are dying, society as we know it has collapsed, and we are following, I think it's like 10-15 years later, almost 20 years later, and we are following a troupe of actors who basically go around these, I think they're in the States. Are they in the States or are they in the UK? I think they're in the States, and it's been a while since I read this book. Basically performing Shakespeare plays, and while there are parts of this book that are like, you know, obviously modern day society is no more, people are kind of fending for themselves, there isn't a big kind of structure anymore in terms of government or things like that, but at the same time, one of the reasons why I think this book is really good is because it shows the fact that things like art and creativity and a human's joy in creativity and in stories and in a little bit of magic and in imagination, it still lives on. And no matter what happens in the world, humans are always going to want to live in their imagination for a while and create something spectacular, whether it's performing things by Shakespeare or performing new things or creating new forms of creative expression. And yeah, I think that's amazing, whether it's art or poems or music or stories or plays. I think that is really nice, and I think the fact that there is like a little family in Station 11, there's a group that travel together, they are each other's family, and they all look after each other and they all have their own little bonds together, and they've been through like thick and thin with each other. I really enjoy that as well about it. I think it's just a very special book in that sense, and the writing in this book is absolutely beautiful. I really enjoy Emily St. John's writing. I think she's just a beautiful, stunning writer, and yeah, this is a very popular book for a very good reason, I think, and it's a very quiet book. Not a lot of things happen. There's not like these big bangs or anything that happen. It is really just about people who are just going on with their life after something crazy happens to the world, which is basically what all you can do, is just keep on going, because otherwise what's the point? Really enjoyed this one. I think this is a really nice one to read. It's definitely one that I think is a great read, and I really enjoyed it when I read it. Another one I want to talk about seems like a bit of a weird one, but it's actually World War Z by Max Brooks. And if you've seen the film World War Z and you liked it or you didn't like it, I would still say, and you haven't read the book, I would still say to read the book, because the book is so different to the movie, and I actually really enjoy the fact that they're completely different, because I think it means that like you were getting two completely different experiences with the book and the movie, and it's just really fun for that to happen. But the book is actually told almost in a weird documentary format almost, where you're getting like loads of different bits of this zombie like apocalypse when it happens, like things from like just before it begins, when it's like kind of building up, a few years after, when it's like at this really bad stage where like, you know, humans are like on lockdown, like they're being eaten alive, and then you're getting years later when it's kind of over and people are rebuilding and the world is rebuilding. And one of the things about this one is the fact that I think it goes to show that the strength of just like the human population, in that people will always overcome. And even when we're talking about zombie apocalypses, like there's always like survivor bands, and there's always people who will just continue to build back up when things look like they're, you know, like when there's nothing there anymore, there is always something to build back up upon. And this book definitely kind of shows that, where there can be like so many weird things going on, but people will always pull through, and there's always someone who will keep on fighting. There's always groups of people who will keep on fighting no matter what, and whether it's for themselves or for their family or for people who come after them. Humans are amazingly stupid sometimes, but we're also amazingly resilient, and we just keep going. So one that I really enjoyed, and I think it's because of the fact that it was so different from the movie which I'd seen before it, so I really enjoyed it, and I enjoy the differences that was there. Each, like, they're just all such different extremes, the bits that we are getting, so it does give like a nice flow to the story where things are kind of calm, things are getting a bit crazy, things get really crazy, and things are just kind of calm again, and we see all those different stages, and I think it's like a really fun. And the last book I wanted to talk about is actually one that is one of my favourite books in the entire world, and it's actually really weird. It's actually really weird in terms of like what's going on in the world right now, because I actually think it's quite similar. And it's called Not Forgetting the Whale by John Ironmonger. And this, first of all, is a beautiful book, beautiful cover. And this is about a man. Is it in Wales? I think it's a Welsh village, Cornwall, yeah. So it's about this man who just kind of washes up on this beach in this Cornwall village, this village in Cornwall, and they have no idea, like, this man is just like washed up, completely naked, on the village. Who is he? We don't know who he is. And it turns out he is someone, he used to work in London, and he worked in the stock trade, and whatever thing he was doing with his work, he ended up creating this system on the computer that was basically a prediction system, and it would basically tell him in terms of stock, like what's going to go good, what's going to fall, all that kind of thing. And for some reason, this machine that he built, this computer thing that he built, basically predicted this massive flu epidemic that was going to wipe out a lot of the world, or going to make loads and loads of people sick. And he knew what he had created was right, and he knew that this was going to happen, and he didn't know how to warn people, and no one would listen to him. So I think at this point he like almost tried to kill himself or something, and then he ends up in this village, and these people look after him, and he realizes that he wants to help save these people, and he wants to let them know like what the hell is going on. And obviously no one's going to listen to him, because it's like just like so mad. He's trying to tell people like stock up on food, you know, don't let strangers in, you know, basically self-isolate the village, and that is what he's doing. And he ends up kind of starting to do it himself. He like buys bulk loads of food, and there's one person I think in the village that's helping him, kind of thinks he's crazy but is going to help him anyway, and he starts like stockpiling all of this food, and eventually the flu does happen, and it starts going around the UK, going around the world, and people realise that he actually wasn't so crazy after all. And the thing that I love about this book is that it's about a pandemic, and it's about things that, like, some really bad things that are happening in the world, but this village is just so lovely. Like, this story is like, this is a survivor story that's all about love and looking after your neighbour and looking after your elderly neighbours and reaching out to people, not like stockpiling food for yourself, but stockpiling food for everyone, and also thinking about your neighbours, like the village across the way, and what they need compared to your needs, and if you have a little bit extra to spare, that you should give that to people if they need it. And there's just so much love and understanding and community in this book. It is just so wonderful, and I really recommend this for people to read right now, because I think it's actually one that would just fill your heart with so much compassion and love and understanding for your neighbour. And yeah, it definitely makes you want to be good, not for yourself but for other people in your life, whether it's the person that you're living with, if it's your family member, your granny, your mum, your dad, or just the person across the way that just might need a little bit of help now and again. And yeah, this is just a wonderful book to read, and I definitely recommend it, especially at the moment with what's going on in the world. This is the perfect book to read, so I definitely recommend it. There are 3 books that I think are kind of a little bit about like the end of the world, but also are quite hopeful at the same time. So yeah, guys, know if you have any other books in the same theme that you would recommend. I would love to know. This is actually a weird thing. I actually kind of like reading books like this, so I would love to know more. So I'd love to have loads more recommendations to try out, so please leave a comment down below and what you think, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.